The first crack of my glass at dinner sounded louder than it should have. "Oh, trouble in paradise," Florian said, grinning like he'd been waiting all night to say it. "Guess he was the wrong guy for you after all." The table went silent. Clara's face drained of color, and I felt something inside me finally snap. After 10 years of watching this man destroy everything good in his life and blame everyone else for it, my name doesn't matter. What matters is that I'd known Florian since we were children. Our mothers were best friends. He was practically my brother. And for over a decade, I watched him build a life with a woman named Clara, a woman who loved him fiercely, who I'd known just as long, who felt like family too. I never imagined I'd be sitting at a table watching him try to humiliate her in front of everyone we knew. It started over a year before that dinner. Florian showed up at my door one evening, restless, agitated, talking about how he felt like he was missing out on something. He wanted to open up his relationship. He wanted my advice on how to convince Clara. I told him it was a mistake. I told him Clara would never go for it. I was right. She didn't want it. So he did what men like Florian do when they don't get their way. He gave her an ultimatum. She caved. Of course she caved. She loved him. And within weeks, he was already involved with a colleague from work. I still believe to this day that she was the real reason he wanted this open relationship in the first place. He just needed permission to chase what he already wanted. Clara was gutted. I watched her unravel in real time, watched a decade of trust dissolve while Florian paraded his new fling like a trophy. During a girls' night out, trying to numb the pain, Clara met a man named Mark. There was a spark, the kind you can't manufacture, the kind that makes you remember what it feels like to be wanted. I warned Florian. I told him if he didn't stop, he was going to lose her for good. He laughed it off. He didn't believe me. Not until she left him for Mark. Then the real transformation began. The man I'd known my whole life became someone I barely recognized. Bitter, wounded, obsessed with rewriting the story so that he was the victim and Clara was the villain. He wanted me to cut her off completely. He wanted me to hate her the way he did. I refused. I told him I would always be there for him. But I wasn't going to abandon a friendship I'd had just as long as I'd had his. I told him to stop talking about her the way he was talking about her. She hadn't done anything wrong. She'd done exactly what he gave her permission to do. He didn't listen. He never listened. Which brings me back to that dinner. Clara had come alone, out of respect for him, not wanting to make things awkward. And still, the second she walked in, Florian couldn't help himself. Guess he was the wrong guy for you after all. Clara's voice was quiet, controlled, the way people talk when they're trying not to cry in public. She said she hadn't brought Mark out of respect for him. Florian sneered and said she should have thought about respect before she cheated. Cheated, as if he hadn't begged her into an open relationship and immediately run into another woman's arms. I told him to drop it. He turned on me instead, accused me of being disloyal, of failing to stop this from happening, of choosing her side all along. I'd had enough. I told him, loudly enough for the whole table to hear, that he was the only person responsible for the end of his relationship, and that he needed to stop blaming everyone else for the consequences of his own choices. He walked out. He didn't answer his phone. He didn't respond to a single message. I called his mother, hoping she could talk sense into him. Instead, she told me he didn't want to speak to me, and that she was disappointed I hadn't stood by him. I sat with that phone in my hand for a long time, wondering if I'd become the villain in a story I didn't even want to roll in. The next day, my guilt was still eating at me, until his mother showed up at my mother's house with a different version of events. Apparently, Florian had told his family that Clara and Mark arrived at the restaurant holding hands, taunting him, saying things like opening up the relationship was the best thing that ever happened to them. He claimed I'd turned on him, told him it served him right, that he deserved to be alone. None of it was true. Not one word. I sat across from his mother and told her exactly what happened. I cried, not because I doubted myself, but because after everything I had done for him, he was rewriting me into a villain to protect his own ego. His mother believed me. She said she'd speak to him. She must have, because he called me that night, screaming. I hung up. I texted him one last message, that I knew he was hurting, but that didn't give him the right to lie about me or treat me with cruelty. That I needed space from a friendship that had become toxic. That I still loved him, that I might be ready for reconciliation someday, but not like this. Then I blocked his number. His family came to see us for his birthday that year, without him. Our entire friend group, the one we'd shared for over a decade, slowly started turning their backs on him. He was only invited to that dinner for my sake. I told myself he'd come back to himself eventually. I was wrong. Days later, I learned he'd been going around telling our friends that I had personally engineered Clara's relationship with Mark, that I had betrayed him on purpose. When people pushed back, he escalated, throwing out insults, digging up private things only he knew about me, and using them as weapons. Then he gave our friend group an ultimatum. Him or us. They chose us. They uninvited him from our annual New Year's trip, the one we'd taken together for years. And for the first time in months, I sat with my friends, the real ones, and felt something like peace. Florian is gone now. Not dead, just gone from my life. The way people go when you finally stop making excuses for them. I still think about the boy I grew up with sometimes. I wonder if he'll ever understand what he lost and why. But some doors don't need slamming to stay shut. Sometimes they just quietly close. So tell me, was I the one in the wrong here? Or did he do this to himself? If this story kept you until the end, you'll probably enjoy the next one too. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next story.